Hello and welcome to Nintendo Voice, your voice for everything Nintendo. This is episode 128 on the 20th of February 2018. My name's Lewis Pugh, and joining me to talk Nintendo, we have Harrison Milfeld.
Hi, Lewis. Hey, everybody. I'm here, so as always.
Another fantastic intro, and we have Colin Crobden.
Hey, there's a lot of 20s in that intro. A lot of 20s being thrown around.
Yeah,
anyway.
I felt I was stumbling on my words there.
I know, I was like struggling with the 20s. Oh no.
I was like,
20.
Have I repeated something? I don't think I have, but it feels like I have. Anyway, those are the relevant numbers, hopefully. On today's show, we've got some what we've been playing. We do have the Nintendo news, and we have a super topic, graphics versus gameplay, later on in the show. And how should we jump in with some what we've been playing?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. I know, Harrison, fortunately you've not had much gameplay time, so we won't go for you.
None for me right now, unless you just want me to tell you the same thing I mentioned about 10-second run returns, which, as it's going right now, I mean, it's a short little thing I've been dealing with. Nothing's changed right now. And then to me, like I said, I preferred Super One More Jump as opposed to this one. And it's fun, but it just gets kind of old really quickly.
Nah, it is. It's always good to have an update, even if it's kind of, it's what I expected. It's more of the same, it sounds like. What I want to jump into, something a little bit different. So let's jump to Colin.
Oh, jump to me. Surprise.
I was going to break tradition and go first of what we've been playing, but
I had a feeling you were going to go with that, but then that didn't happen. Before
the recording, you did say you may have a story for us.
I may have a story. Okay, so I haven't been playing too much, but I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Platinum randomized. I'm on the DS series of games. Exciting times, I know. So it's pretty standard randomization so far. Nothing too out of the blue. It's just been like, oh, I'm finding Magikarps on the land again. Okay, fair enough. Which is always fun. You know, that's about the excitement. That's exciting to get. But I did have access to a fishing rod. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go fishing. And when you go fishing and you hook a Lugia out the water, that makes you think.
Surprising. Yeah, it does make you.
What sort of thoughts is it? I'm like, A, this is a heck of a fishing rod. And B, where did this guy get this fishing rod from? So I want one.
Well, that is kind of canon. Not so much a fishing rod, but
wait, fishing rods. Fishing rods are part of the the way you describe that. The way you describe that is saying like, oh, it's very important, integral to the story. I'm like, yes, fishing rods are part of Pokemon lore.
The particular point I wanted to make was that, like, because it's randomized, of course you could get anything out of the sea.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But Lugia, although you don't usually get them from the sea, can go in the sea. Yeah, in Pokemon the movie 2000.
Oh, here we go. Go on.
He is awoken from the sea.
Isn't it like almost like it's like 24 Pokemon movies or something?
They have been making one every year since the original movie.
I will look up how many there are. I haven't
think about that.
I haven't seen the recent one, I Choose You, which I'm eager to check out.
I haven't seen any apart from the first one, and I hated it.
You should watch it again.
No. Terrible movie.
I'm counting right now, but keep talking and I'll get to it.
Okay, so the issue with the first Pokemon movie is it has no purpose because Mewtwo reverses time at the end.
No, it doesn't reverse time. He just wipes. He just clears the memories.
He clears the memories.
Yes.
It's what they learn.
Well, Mewtwo learned the lesson. That's the point.
He just finds ways like screw him out.
He learned to be a better Pokemon, didn't he? He learned to be less.
The morals were BS to basically what we're trying to say to this. I mean, it's a movie. Oh, okay, it's a movie that when you look back, whatever. I mean, it's trash, but yes, I went saw as a kid. You have to look as far as the origins of Mewtwo on there, and I felt like there was I think in the Japanese version or the DVD release of it, there was added emphasis onto it, like his backstory and is a little bit more tragic. So I was like, okay, this is far more interesting than what we got. And to count how many Pokemon movies, the anime movies there've been on as of December 10th, 2017. There are 21 movies.
Oh.
And this includes the I Choose You movie that came out just recently in 2017. So.
I think Colin is contemplating some sort of marathon run back to back.
No. I think that would be a good one.
Colin movies.
Colin watches Pokemon movies on Twitch. I'd like to see that.
If you want to see,
and obviously, there might be 21 release, but we know Detective Pikachu's coming. Colin, you could just add that on top. Do you reckon that'll be better or worse than the first movie for you?
Let's never speak of it ever.
You're just such a curmudgeon when it comes to these things. I mean, I think they're not good, but they're harmless.
I'm very tempted to run downstairs to find my Blu-ray copy of the first 3 films collection.
That's fine. You don't need to do it. It's okay. It's okay.
Well, no, we can end up buying Colin a ticket for Detective Pikachu next year. So
you will never see me again if that happens. I can promise you that.
Yeah, but because you'll be constantly inside a giant Detective Pikachu mascot costume, never to be seen again.
He's so against it, and I say, Colin here's not going to like my cover story I did for Pure Nintendo about Detective Pikachu. I will be sending you a copy.
I'll be burning it in the fire.
Oh, that's not nice to say.
Oh, you heard Detective Pikachu.
I'll burn the cover in the fire. I'll read the rest. How about that?
Still. Anyway,
I feel I may have interrupted your story there.
That's pretty much my story. I caught a Lugia, and I fished that one, and I caught it. Interesting times, I know. I did find is it Ho-Ho?
Ho-Ho.
In like the platinum version of Safari Zone, it's like a marshland you walk through. I found one there, and I couldn't catch it. No matter what I did, I was throwing bait, I was throwing mud. I tried everything, couldn't catch it. I was like, it's impossible. But yeah.
I wonder how the randomizer works in that sense for like when you're in.
See, I found a program which lets you tweak the level of randomization. I didn't go too crazy, but you can make it insane. Like you can change all the typings, you can chat, so you can have a Pikachu that's a water type, essentially, if you would.
Oh, very randomized. Okay.
You can like randomize evolutions, you can randomize trainer types, trainer names, anything you want. You can just completely tweak a game, which is great if you played for it before. You want a completely different experience. Yeah, like you can also like randomize what Pokemon like HMs they learn. So you can have a Geodude that can learn how to swim, fly, whatever.
It was somewhat like how I played the original games after I got an action replay for the original Game Boy.
Yeah. Action replay, that was a great thing.
Yeah. The Game Boy version is the only one I've used.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've used several.
Okay.
But yeah, made competitive play very interesting back in the day.
The class is cheating, though.
Well, yes, but I mean, it was at such like a kind of an early era of that side of things that like a lot of people just weren't aware of the concept.
For anyone who's curious about what an action replay is, it's kind of a device that basically hacks the game.
It's the later form of a Game Genie, I think, that came out around after Game Shark, essentially. So it was like around the early aughts. That's where I believe it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Shall I jump into
shit for me? Yep.
No worries. Well, I've got a new game, somewhat, to bring to the table, and an update on one I've already talked about here. Although I guess they're basically both games I've talked about on podcasts, at least. I'm not sure here.
Dun, dun, dun.
The first is Bayonetta 2. This time
Yes, a game in which I was hoping to pick up over the weekend, but didn't because a little strapped for cash at this moment. So under undisclosed reasons. But please tell us. I've heard glowing things about the Switch port.
Yes. Well, I've had kind of glowing impressions of the original Bayonetta 2 on the Wii U.
Yeah. We all did. We all did.
Yes.
I think.
Like, no, that game's terrible. What are you talking about?
And this is that. It does have some technical improvements.
Okay.
There's a few little bits here and there, as in they've kind of expanded the co-op mode. But it's mostly that game, which is what I was expecting going in. Because I was kind of excited to pick it up again because I was kind of itching almost to play it again. Because it's one of those games. It can get under your skin. Where I found the original time I completed it, there was quite a large period after that time where I was like, I kind of want to jump back into that. And often I would. And then, obviously time passes. And then, because obviously the announcement of this game and it coming to the Switch, I started getting those feelings like, Bayonetta 2 is a very good game. It's got some cool music. It's got some cool scenes. It feels fun to play. It's, very smooth gameplay. It kind of hits a lot of those marks. And I wasn't necessarily expecting to complete it again over a weekend. But I did. Okay. Because it's such a fantastic game. I mean, it's not the longest of games. It's still a fair-sized game to beat over a weekend. It took me about 10 hours or so.
But
and I have played it since.
I do have a question.
Go on.
What costume are you wearing right now?
That's the thing. It's the regular one.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I beat the whole game with just the regular Bayonetta 2 costume.
That's how I was. That's how I was with the original one as well. And I know I did want to try out the Samus one just because I heard instead of the Panther form that you use to run across one distance, you can be in the Morph Ball. I'm like that. I don't know. There's things like that I really like, especially the sound specific stuff when you're collecting halos and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
you have a dedicated button to switch the visor up and down.
Yeah,
cutscenes.
That's cool.
There's a lot of little details there.
They handled that portion of the game so well. That the extra costumes. I mean, even once the Peach costume, it looks like throwaway until you realize that when you do your giant attacks, Bowser's fists,
the giant hands and feet, as it were.
Yeah, they belong to Bowser. It's that's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, well, I've played around a little bit with the costumes, kind of post game, and it is one of those games where it is just fun to replay stages. I guess one, just because the levels are fun in general, and two, because it has that arcadey feeling to it. It does score you, it does rank you, and it does kind of gently push you, just to improve. Yep. Just to do the same, but now you've got a bit more grasp of the controls and of these enemies in general, and just the general mechanics, and just see how far you can push it. And it is fun doing that, and it goes, all right, this is what you did last time, this is what you're doing now.
Would you say though it's okay, have you been playing more in handheld mode or have you been playing in docked mode? Because I realized it looks fantastic in handheld mode, but obviously when you look at something when you have it in docked mode, you do see that notice of the lack of anti-aliasing on those rough edges and stuff that were present in the original game. But again, this game has been improved upon a little bit here, just ever so slightly from its Wii U release. So, but I don't know. I'm just glad that it gets a second chance on here because it's a game like that, an exclusive form on Wii U that does not deserve to die out there. And the fact that it's still Nintendo specific exclusive is just as good.
No, I totally agreed. I guess to answer your question, the first bit is I played it almost exclusively in docked mode on the big screen. I have played it in handheld only for a level, maybe two, and it looks surprisingly good. Maybe even better, oddly, just because of the it's 1-to-1, it's a 720 image it's presenting, and you're looking at it on a 720 screen, and it's a small screen, so it looks incredibly sharp. It almost looks like too good to be true. They're also running at 60 frames on a handheld because your brain kind of wants to connect it to other similar portable games,
right?
And I'm not sure what I should even compare it to. Because it's such a crazy experience. What 3DS game do you compare it to?
You can't really.
Exactly. It's a league on its own. But yeah, it still looks fantastic on the TV as well, even blown up on a big screen. And I think that rock solid frame rate really helps that. If you were just to tell me, this is a 1080 or a game which scales, I probably would believe you at first glance. purely because of that frame rate, as as bizarre as that would sound, just because it's that buttery smooth. So much is going on, like the screen is moving so fast. It keeps up with it, and it's just fantastic. And if you've played it before, just try and remember the intro to the second stage, which is essentially the first level, and it's it's Christmas Eve, I believe.
It is Christmas time,
and it sets up so many different set pieces on top of each other in the space of about 5 minutes. It's such a cool ride.
In the spirit of does that actually make Bayonetta 2 a Christmas game?
Oh, yes.
In the same way as Die Hard, I believe so.
It's the greatest Christmas game ever made.
Yeah.
Technically, I mean, when you look at it, technically Mario games are all Christmas games because of their snow levels. So yes, it is technically that.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they're good Christmas games in that sense. They're good games and they're maybe Christmas games, but it doesn't mean they're going to be in the top ranking of best Christmas games.
Obviously. Now, you haven't noticed any sign of slowdown between the frame rates in this one, because I think that was one that they touted that they fixed in this version.
That's right. I've seen some technical things. I've seen a Digital Foundry video where they go in the nitty gritties and they show there are portions of the game where it does dip below 60. But we are talking about dipping below 60, as in it's still hitting 50 at that point. And it's just for a second. Yeah. But no, if you're just playing it generally, it feels like it's 60 constant throughout.
Okay.
Which is impressive. There's a lot going on.
7 years, yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah, but that's Bayonetta 2 for me for now. I think I probably will end up playing this more than I did on the Wii U. I'm not sure I actually did replay any of it. Possibly because it was my first time playing both 1 and 2. And so I played... Yeah. I think I played them in order. I think I played 1 and then I played 2. Which is quite a lot of Bayonetta.
Yes, it's very much a lot of Bayonetta.
So I did buy this digitally, so I did purchase just number 2.
Okay.
And now that makes me eligible for a slightly cheaper version of number 1.
How slight are we talking?
Well, basically, either way you buy it, it adds up to the full retail, the regular retail price. So over here in the UK, it's £40 for Bayonetta 2 and £25 for Bayonetta 1. But if you buy 2 first, it reduces from 25 to 20. And I assume if you buy 1 first, I assume it just drops it by £5 again.
Right. See, Bayonetta 1 is a really good game, but 2 is so much superior to the first one.
Yeah, my only thing I would say though about what the first one does have over its difficulty, because I did feel a little bit more challenge in 1 as opposed to 2. So for anybody who's been playing it before, I may just end up starting on hard mode probably for Bayonetta 2. But not to say it was it dipped down my quality of the game, say the sequel. It's just I kind of noticeably from going from the first one to this one, I'm like, wow, this was slightly easier, but I totally can understand where it was streamlined a little bit more, because I felt like in the first game, it gave you too many times to breathe, which was okay, I guess, but there was far too many points where I felt that way. And whereas in 2, it just felt like a ride over and over and over again. So, I mean, but you still didn't feel overwhelmed.
Well, I'll go with that.
That's cool. So, yeah, I haven't picked up 1 again. I probably will at some point, but I don't feel like in a rush. Now that I've done 2, I should pick up 1 for the discount. So I think I'll end up playing a lot more of 2 and kind of exhausting it before I do pick up 1 again.
So when it comes closer to 3 coming out, would you then pick up 1 and then play through?
Yeah, that would make sense. They'll try and space them out a bit. And honestly, if you're kind of debating, if you've not played either, which to play first, I think the the usual answer is, you should play 1 first because it's number 1. I think I'd actually recommend number 2.
I say 2 first, because the stories, they are intertwined with each other, but
it's typical Platinum, and it's
crazy. It's crazy story. It's so
yeah. No, I think the story, without spoiling too much, I think it could have been in a way that 2 was presented before 1. Well, I mean, they connect in this way.
Kind of.
And like events happen after the other, but because they kind of reference each other loosely in some more direct ways, like I don't think you necessarily lose much in that sense.
No.
Like if you experience 2 first and then go back and go, oh, that was the references. And it's just kind of the other way around.
There is a big plot point in the first game that the second one assumes you already know.
Yeah, it sort of wraps everything back into a little bow and But
True.
Which makes me.
But I think kind of visiting it the other way around could be interesting.
Could be.
Like I don't think it ruins it.
I don't think you'd lose anything doing it that way around.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Bayonetta 2. It's a fun game. Another fun game I've got to bring to the table. One I've spoken about on this show just a couple of episodes ago. Doom on the Switch.
Oh.
And the quick regular update is I've been playing more Doom and Doom's still good. And
Doom is good.
I've been playing Doom and it's still good.
Yep. But the extra bit to add is something new, which is since last time they've added motion controls to Doom.
Oh god.
Exactly, yeah. So the first thing I did, I enabled it, and there's a sensitivity. Let's whack that to 100%.
How does that work?
It actually works quite well. Like I was concerned at first because there didn't seem to be like a reset button, like I'm used to in Splatoon. Because I do like my motion Splatoon, and I often hit that reset button to center the camera again.
Okay.
And it didn't exist. I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. But somehow it kind of works. Like it doesn't so far seem to have lost its center, which is quite impressive. And now, like, admittedly, I don't use it as I use it slightly differently than I do in Splatoon. Although it's essentially the same sort of setup, so it's just like you can control the camera with the sticks, and you also can do it with the motion, assuming you turn this on, which is not on by default. So I walk around and turn around corners with the sticks, and then I do just fine movements, and I guess wide movements if necessary during combat with motion. But I won't be doing that to turn around a corner as I'm walking around.
Yeah.
And playing it that way, it works. It's not going to be for everybody, but you do, and this is quite good for Doom. It does feel even more so like that PC game feeling, at least, because it's so like fast and zippy anyway. Adding in the motion controls does help, just like spinning round to a certain angle. If you're kind of used to that of other games, it probably helps more than just jumping in afresh if this is your first motion controlled game. But yeah, I was kind of testing it in this, I guess this area I was in, and I was just saying if I could snap the camera from like a particular part of the ceiling to this door and this corner over here, with just like a quick flick of the wrist. It works.
I can't help but feel though, like it's like an added novelty.
Sure.
It doesn't sound like the optimum way to play Doom.
Well, it's both, which is good. Like I'm still using the sticks for lots of things.
Okay.
But you get that like fine aiming, which is handy.
Right.
You've got an enemy in your screen, and then you just do that to line up the cursor to its demon face. But yeah, it's also good for just. I feel sometimes I'm just a bit slower aiming on the sticks. If I'm trying to get there, and these demons can be fast. They can be jumping around all over the place. And although you can run fast as well, you also have to do a lot of vertical aiming, and it is quite handy on the vertical aim.
Just
well, that's the thing I should probably mention. This is all so far with a pro controller and a TV. I've not tried it in portable form. Although it can be.
That'd be. Do you really want to be like moving a switch around?
Maybe. I think I should play it in the office with the swivel chair. That could be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could strap it to my face, and we've got VR on the Switch. It would be incredible.
Yeah, but awkward.
Yeah, and you have no depth perception.
Honestly, like I'm surprised no one's like done that idea for an accessory where it's like the whole cardboard box like thing. You can strap a Switch to your face.
I'm thinking of a way to do it. As sure as possible. It can only be so close to your eyes, of course.
Of course. Oh, you just get double vision. But
yeah, it's a cool addition. It's a good option to have. And it's something which wasn't expected, which is always good.
Oh yeah.
There's a new update. Oh, it's changed the game icon. That's a cool icon. It's got motion controls.
They didn't have to add it. The fact that they did just kind of shows more faith in this brand.
Yeah, no. I think so as well. But it's just what I've kind of experienced, especially even with like playing Splatoon with like motion controls. I've grown to actually like the option. I mean, it's not something that I feel like everything should be out there, but if it's added to say something like this, I'd be willing to try it out. So, I mean, it just kind of gives that extra option of wanting to test out your different kind of control options out there. And to me, it just, I just could see it working well for those who do. And then there's some who probably just don't prefer them. But, I mean, it's a nice little addition.
Yeah, but I think we'll see this option included with the other panic button ported first-person shooter games, which I'm sure there will be a few in the years to come for the Switch.
I mean, they've already got the tech there, so just implement it in different games, really.
Yeah, I definitely think this will be something which is, whether for the best or not, I mean, options are always good, as we say, but in Wolfenstein 2, I imagine it will just be there day one now.
Yeah,
it's part of that engine now, I'm guessing. But yeah, that's all for me this week. And so, let's jump into some Nintendo news. Not the heaviest hitting of weeks, but we do have a few cool announcements. Starting of which, we have Steamworld Dig 2 is coming out to a new system. Not that type of new. It's the 3DS, the family of systems.
The family, yeah.
The whole family, not just the new 3DS. There might be some confusion with how I set that up. But February 22nd, it is coming out on the 3DS.
Well, Colin, there's a Switch game that you can play now.
Yay! This is kind of odd to me. Like, I thought this would be released like day one alongside the Switch version.
Well, I think they wanted to give something out, like with. I know that at the time the Switch was still a growing platform, and then the 3DS has that base out there. But and especially that's where most of all the games are. Especially at this moment, I think it's I don't know. It made sense for that, whatever. I mean, because it wasn't like because the people behind it, they mentioned how that sold the most out of all the platforms. So that just wow.
Yeah, and it's also good that the 3DS actually getting something. Yeah, a little something. Here's a new game. Enjoy.
Yeah, I think it's cool just the fact that obviously Steamworld Dig started on the 3DS. It's turned into somewhat of a big deal now, which wasn't the case when it first came out. Like, it had a decent amount of buzz going around it, but it was still this kind of, quirky 3DS game from this, like, weird indie studio no one's heard of.
So the first game started on 3DS. Is the 3DS the last system to receive Steamworld Dig 2?
If you count the Wii U.
Question. It probably would come out to more things, so it probably won't be the last system.
Okay, no, that's fair enough.
But you never know; it could be.
That's just an interesting inversion of what happened to the original.
Very possibly, but a very cool game. And another little thing, an impressive thing to mention: Steamworld Dig 2 runs at a silky smooth 60 frames per second with 3D turned on.
Oh,
there we go.
The main feature of 3DS, which nobody uses anymore.
Yeah, but that's not just for the new 3DSs either.
Oh,
I think that's quite an impressive technical feat there. Like, it's a very nice, sharp-looking game, and have it running at 60 with 3D turned on the regular 3DS.
I mean, it was never like the most graphically intensive game. So,
well, it depends how this 3DS port looks, because at least the HD versions, it has very large art for each of the characters and how they animate. So depending on how sharp they look on the 3DS, it potentially is pretty impressive in my book. It depends how it's done though. But yeah, it's a very cool game. and it's one which is perfectly suited for portable play. This, turn-based strategy game. So it's cool to see it there. I mean, I won't be picking up myself personally, but
wait, you mentioned turn-based. You mentioned turn-based. Were you referring to Heist though? Because
I am referring to Heist. This is Dig. But point kind of still stands. You're absolutely right. My mind drifted to Heist because honestly, I do prefer Heist to Dig.
Oh, really?
I do. I'm outlining it.
I like Steamworld Dig is a more fun game than Heist. I'm not saying Heist is bad in any way, but
I have actually heard people though, like if it's not necessarily to play the sequel as opposed to like if you like to play the first one, if you need to play the sequel, because I think it's like if you play the second one and then go back to the first one, you're not going to be liking the first one and what it had in it initially.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
I kind of want to pick this up now.
You should. Have you picked up Hyrule? Not Hyrule. I'm drifting to different games.
You're going over the place here.
I am. Fire Emblem Warriors.
I have not. Honestly, I want to wait until I get a Switch or the Switch version, because I've heard things about the 3DS version that it doesn't run quite as smoothly as it should.
That's the thing. I've heard nothing about the 3DS version. Not a single thing.
No, it's just kind of been that game was like out to die. It seemed like.
So I'm kind of holding off onto the Switch for that because I want to play. I love Warrior games. I like playing in their optimal form if possible.
Oh, cool.
So,
and I didn't mention in what we've been playing, but I've been playing more Fire Emblem. There's the second batch of season DLC came out with free characters from the original Fire Emblem.
I was going to ask, will you be picking up Hyrule Warriors Deluxe?
Not sure. Potentially.
Is that what it's called? Deluxe?
But
Is it called Deluxe? I think it's called Deluxe.
I think it's called Definitive Edition.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Close. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Definitive Edition.
I do prefer Fire Emblem Warriors to Hyrule Warriors. I've got a lot more enjoyment out of it than I did in Hyrule Warriors. However, it has kind of lit that fire of, maybe I'm just appreciating this series in general more now. Opposed to...
that's interesting.
As in, like... because I've burnt for a lot of content in it already, which I never did in Hyrule Warriors. I kind of played through the adventure mode, or whatever the story mode was.
The legend mode, I think it's called.
Okay, and I looked at the mode with the maps, and I played a few battles, and I was like, I'm not sure this is for me, and kind of put the game down. So in retrospect, I kind of barely scratched the surface of that game. Whereas in Fire Emblem Warriors, I have been going through all the equivalents of all those map modes. And I've been doing the extra DLC ones as well. And so I've been burning for a lot of content, leveling up all the different characters and, putting a lot of effort and such into that side of things. So I'm seeing like the latest Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition trailer, and I'm like, maybe I do need to give this another go. Maybe I will. But maybe. I think I'm convincing myself here, to be honest.
Maybe. I really enjoyed my time with Hyrule Warriors. It was I cleared the first adventure map on the Wii U. It was so much fun. It really was. I never really went past that point. It kind of tried off on me, but yeah, great game. Really.
I just want to take a question from the chat here, which, to be honest, in the sake of transparency, is exclusively by Mr. Cyan currently and myself. But Mr. Cyan does ask though, which in-game story do you prefer, Fire Emblem or Zelda? And this is for Warriors. I
have no opinion on. I have no opinion on Warriors because I've not played it.
Oh yeah, I'm guessing this is just for me because I'm the only one who's played both of these games here. I'm not actually sure. They're quite similar stories.
I, for one, really enjoyed the Hyrule Warriors storyline.
Yeah. Possibly that then. I mean, I didn't get much out of the Hyrule Warriors story in a story sense. Like it had a bunch of good missions in it, which I enjoyed playing. But the story was very what I would have expected. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's like if I was like, what do you reckon this story is going to be for Fire Emblem Warriors? I probably would have guessed, it's going to be this basically. I mean, because I feel there's only so much you can do when you're pulling from different characters from different games and adding some new characters. And...
So let me ask you this: in Foreign Warriors, did they do the split dimension storyline?
Or do they have the horizontal split screen?
Well, just in general, does it do the whole dimensions are splitting and warriors of each dimension are?
Oh, I see. Basically,
because that's what it did in Horror Warriors. As well.
Yeah, it's basically that.
It was the only way to make sure, like, what does this fit in the timeline? Even though we don't know if this ever fits in the timeline.
Yeah. So in
Horror Warriors does not go in the timeline.
There's like a new kingdom with some new characters in, and they have some trouble. And then I can't remember if it's some sort of legend in their world or not. But they then have to find heroes from other worlds who start appearing in their worlds.
Just randomly show up.
Essentially, they get pulled from their worlds, and they have to team up to fight a greater evil. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same story as Horror Warriors.
Exactly, yeah. But oddly, maybe I do prefer the Fire Emblem one, just because I feel the characters kind of fit that story more. Like that story kind of felt less out of place for me because the games kind of already have touched on those sort of things. But they're quite similar, to be fair.
Yeah.
So next piece of news. I'm not sure it's a game me review have played, but Toki Tori 2 Plus.
I can't say I have.
Which originally released on the Wii U. Colin's shaking his head. For the record, I did play Toki Tori 2 Plus.
Indulge us.
before it was even had the plus on the end.
Oh,
okay.
But to finish the news story, it's coming out on the Switch this month, in a few days' time, on the 23rd.
Ooh.
And I don't think it's gone up yet on the American eShop in terms of seeing it under coming soon. But for Europe, it is already, and there is a slight discount for pre-ordering it. So European price, it's €14.99. But if you buy it in advance, if you pre-order it digitally, it's $9.99.
Wow, that's actually a fairly hefty discount.
Yeah, this is a very cool game, which didn't really get much attention when it was originally released, when it was released as just Toki Tori 2. And I can't remember what the big difference was when they added the plus in it. But they did significant work to the game.
Zero, like, it's a 2D puzzle game?
Yes, in a way. It's kind of a mix between, like, and this term gets overused, but kind of like a Metroidvania, but a puzzle game.
Okay.
Like focusing purely on the puzzle aspects of Metroidvania. But you learn like most of your core skills at the beginning.
Okay.
And it's just learning how you can use them in different ways. But you do live kind of in this like big space. So you don't have stages or levels. You are, traveling this world. But it is a set of like puzzles and like puzzles within larger puzzles. And it's a very unique set of mechanics because you're not a violent character. You're this little cute yellow bird thing, and you can like whistle and you can do some other little things, but you don't like just directly attack enemies. But there are enemies which can kill you.
So you like chuck things on them. You drop
kind of, but like they are puzzles in themselves.
Okay.
And so it is this very unique game. It would be a great game to have a demo, but it would also be a tricky game to do a demo for. But I'm sure you could find some way to slice up a little bit to get the general feel of it. But yeah, I'm glad this is getting a re-release as well, because the studio behind it announced their previous game was going to be their last.
Ooh.
And that might still be the case, like as a technicality.
This qualifies as re-release technically.
Exactly. But yeah, this is a fantastic little game, and hopefully a few more people will play it. Yeah, I do hope it kind of grabs the attention of some bigger news sources when it does hit, and they can spread the word. Yeah, it was shockingly overlooked the original time.
Lewis is disappointed.
I am.
You just feel that too. Like, just please play this game,
It
please.
because it all started into a sad story with the studio themselves. They kind of banked big on this game,
Yeah,
and it didn't do well, and it basically wrecked their company. but like that in itself is not a reason to go and buy the game. The fact which makes it horroring is the fact it's a fantastic little game. You know, I think people can buy it.
Lewis is telling this tragic story while laughing. He's like, I didn't bankrupt their company.
Well, the problem is I'm looking at a screenshot of it, and it's this just fun, cute, cuddly game, like full of innocence. And I think that might be the reason it didn't sell. Because you look at it, that looks like a kid's game.
They needed to do the Kirby thing. They needed to make it look angry on the front cover.
Yeah, none of these cute little chicken things.
So you're suggesting replace all these things with Kirby as a way to like boost sales?
That would definitely boost them. But Colin's referring to Angry Kirby.
Yeah, the one that because Japan gets a very happy-looking Kirby, and here in America, they always have to put his eyebrows down a little bit, make him more intimidating.
I never understood that. Like,
well, it's Americans. It's the way. It's us Americans. We're just like, oh, everybody out here. We're like, hey, we got to make sure everything is aggressive and just tight. Yeah.
Yeah. The developer in question is Two Tribes, and their recent game was Rive. Which did come out on the Switch last year, which is cool. So hopefully, maybe the end isn't confirmed for them. I hope that's the case. Either way,
we hope.
Check out Toki Tori 2. Mr. Cyan also, I want to interject here, comments that if they give Kirby a shotgun, it would sell 100 million.
Oh,
put Kirby in Doom.
Kind of, actually. I mean,
he's had a motorbike before.
He has. He's had a giant robot before.
Is this true?
I say give it a shot.
I like it. Double-barreled. And hopefully that was intentional. Our final news story for the week is some details on the Mega Man Legacy collections for this Switch. And so, to break it down, it's coming May 22nd. So, in digital and physical forms, as you would expect. If you go the physical route, it's going to cost you $39.99. Obviously, that includes both Legacy Collection 1 and 2. However,
rocky ground.
I'm going to make sure I'm right on this.
Where are you talking about you're talking about the retail release, how most Wii U, or not Wii U games, but Switch games, that they don't necessarily can fit in the cartridge, like for some part, like say LOA Noir, I want to say even FIFA, for instance, NBA 2K, they have like that little white box at the top where it says you must need an internet connection to release it, and I'm just like, can you designers and NOA like do something different where that just doesn't look so?
Is it the same for Doom?
No, it's not.
Technically, it is, because on Doom, not that I got the physical version, but you have to download the multiplayer.
That's what it was. Yeah.
But I feel that's less egregious because you have to be online to play the multiplayer.
That makes sense.
That's not too bad. But yeah, how they've done it here is more questionable. I'd say it's on the opposite scale to Doom, which is on the cart you get Legacy Collection 1.
Right. And
you get a code to download 2.
Bit lame. Okay.
However, the download sizes for these aren't actually too big. So, like, I would imagine you could have fitted both on a 16 gig card. So I feel they must be really squeezing it. Mm-hmm. They must have a really tiny card, because I think the first Legacy Collection is only a few hundred meg.
Okay.
Admittedly, the second one, because it includes PlayStation games, the full motion cutscenes and such, I think it's like over 10 gig. So it's a big jump from one.
That's a huge leap. Okay.
But the two combined still equals a relatively small game.
What? So, hang on. So when you buy the physical version, you get Legacy Collection 1.
Yes.
Tiny.
Yes.
Why not just put the second collection on the cartridge and let you download the first?
Yeah, this does make no sense to me because I feel like a lot of those games. Okay, with the Legacy okay, you have the first one, 1 through 6, which I feel like, given with all their menus and everything like that, they don't feel that hard to compress, or like I don't feel like those take up so much memory. And whereas Legacy 2, maybe with the exception of Mega Man 8, which has animated cutscenes, bad ones by chance and bad dubbing, I just don't. Yeah, that's just really strange.
It is bizarre. But that's how it is split up. There are some extra things for the Switch version. And so the Switch version is going to include a collection of fan-created challenges. I don't know how they came about, but they will be included. Well, actually, they were previously on the 3DS release. I'm not sure how that's entirely new for the Switch then. And both of the games will also support Amiibo. And you can also, kind of like in Bayonetta, you can buy either collection individually digitally. So yeah, that's kind of the breakup. Yeah, they're kind of the big news is kind of how they.
In the case of Bayonetta 1, I mean, it gives you the option where it's like, well, I think that's just them not wanting to, with the port, not to put it on aside from a single cart, just like, hey, here's Bayonetta just solely on here, and if you want the download, here you go. But so that one doesn't bother me as much. So
no, certainly, because also I feel like more of a bonus than then like cheaping out. Because I don't think you'll be fitting they're both of them are big games in terms of download size, traditionally at least. They're not like massive compared to massive games. But yeah, it wouldn't feel odd having both of them on a separate cartridge.
Exactly. It's not like the day. Yeah. No, sorry for interrupting you on there. Gone are the days when we actually had, multiple discs to get through games. I mean, whether it's a Final Fantasy or even a Metal Gear, or in this case, yeah.
I would argue that's a good thing. Because that was horrendous. Please insert this to you. Like, you kidding me? All right.
Yeah, I rarely dealt with that. There's a few PC games which required multiple discs. I wasn't much for disc-based consoles.
Didn't PC games just have you install the discs and then you just play it off one?
Yeah.
Generally really? Wow, okay. That's interesting.
There's a very good Blade Runner game, which had, I think, about 4 CDs or so.
Wait.
There was an installation. Yes.
Was it like a point-and-click Blade Runner game?
Yes.
I'm really... Okay.
Oh, you should... I'm not sure if it's possible to play it now on modern machines. I'm sure there must be a way. But it's really good. It's kind of an original story, canonically in the Blade Runner universe. It was released, I guess, a fair bit after the film. Thinking about it, but it was done in pre-rendered characters and backgrounds, and so for the time it looked really good, and it was also fully voice acted. Surprisingly good. Very non-Nintendo game.
Exceedingly so, yes.
Yeah. Maybe we should have a super topic one day about video game movies which could have been, or the other way around, sort of thing.
Yeah. As in, you mean video game movies that could have been good, or saying adaptations that we would have put a better spin on?
I was thinking more so, not really how I expressed it, was like kind of the decline of movie video games. So video games based off of movies.
Well, games. Well, when you look at the whole overall history of something like that, there was a big kind of sign to anybody who actually, whether it's the 80s or 90s, when you see something like this, like games, for instance, that are based on movies, it technically was like a warning, like a big red flag. I'm like, avoid this. We've seen all those adaptations from like LJN, for instance, when they decide to gobble up all the licenses for all these movies, and they realized, we don't have enough money to pay our developers, so let's hand it off to this team.
Yeah, pretty much.
Indeed. I think I might add that one to the list.
That'd be fun.
That would be.
Talking about super topics. And that's what we're moving.
Oh, segue.
There we go. Smoothly done. If you don't know what super topic is, it is a fan requested feature. And the way you can get on board is by supporting us on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/Nintendo Voice and support us there, you can request any super topic of your choice. It can be a question, a general theme, or even some convoluted Nintendo character-based quiz show. The options are numerous. What we have today is from Daniel Gaskin, the topic of graphics versus gameplay. And I shall read Daniel's words here. The age-old dispute amongst Nintendo fans and other console fans with the recent release of Doom on Switch. Debate continues over Nintendo's lack of power. That being that it's 30 frames per second and has a very slight graphical downgrades. Yet the negativity are always at the forefront of this dispute. The developer has retained the feel of the gameplay of this frantic shooter. So, are you a graphics snob, where a game can look amazing yet play terrible? Or can you put flashy, hyper-realistic graphics aside for a game with top-notch gameplay? It's nicely worded.
I want to be the last to go on this one, not because I have like a very big hot take on this sort of issue. I'm just more interested because this has been a hotly debated kind of thing we see for over the years. And to preview what I would say, I feel like it's kind of not as big of an issue right now, knowing that we've seen the rise of indie games, like the indie scene. So, I'll let you guys go first.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think that's a fairly decent point to start the conversation. Is it because of the rise of indie games and retro-styled games, which I guess are different things, but they often get, melded together?
Mm-hmm.
Is there like this big debate, as it were? And I think yes. And like oddly, I think that kind of highlights that there is this issue still. Like I often see like a new retro-themed game announced, and like the immediate flood of comments is just, oh, what is this 8-bit rubbish sort of thing? Even though this particular game is trying to emulate a Super Nintendo. And so I feel like I'm not sure that is necessarily driven by people who generally dislike or who are graphic snobs. And it's just that they don't like those types of games because they are different types of games to more traditional 3D games.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of splits up to a different argument. But yeah, no, there's definitely, and the Switch highlights this as well, there's definitely people who go, well, what's the best version of this game? Like, technically, that's the version I'll play.
Yeah.
And like, that's the one and only kind of question and concern. Whereas, like, with the Switch, it does give you another option. As in, you're not going to get the best graphical version of that game, unless it's just on par. It's like a not particularly powerful game, but it gives you, you can play it portably. You can play it in, more different ways. I think it's very well. What I've spoken about that I'm definitely not the graphic snob person. I'm into my technology, but I really don't care for a game necessarily to be at its the peak as it could be in terms of technical prowess. I much prefer like art style over pure
that's
polygon count.
Oh, no, that's a valid point. It's something like that. I mean, when this kind of goes back to Breath of the Wild, for instance, when you look at, well, there'd be comparisons to people like how this game was built on Wii U hardware when moving over to the Switch. But the thing that I really liked about it, and there's things I could definitely improve upon, whether it's like enemy design, like varying enemy designs I wish was better out there, but it does have a really distinct art style to me that really just sticks. I feel like will age a little bit. Like I think age as well, hopefully, as like Wind Waker.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like it is, and that makes up another point. Like when Wind Waker was originally announced, and they showed off what Wind Waker was,
there was a little bit of backlash of that.
Oh yeah, I mean that I can recall from every little bit of like what happened to that. I mean, it's a perfect example to actually fit into something like this. Is that when I don't know, because we were all just so like amazed basically by that whole like that tech demo we saw that was using the updated Ocarina of Time graphics of that Ganondorf and Link fight, which was like 10 seconds long, and yet we get this first gameplay video of Wind Waker, and just the entire
which shows gameplay.
Wait, what? Yeah, and this, by the way, that was at Space World. The whole internet just goes into a tizzy, and
I mean, Nintendo kind of pulled the same swerve us with the Wii U tech demo of Zelda, looking incredible, looks amazing. And then
I watched it recently.
And then and then obviously they showed off Breath of the Wild, but I feel like the reaction was lessened by people appreciating Wind Waker for what it was. You know, I mean, yes, it looked amazing for what it was. And people wanted something graphically impressive to follow Ocarina of Time. Like, oh, it's on GameCube, it's gonna be amazing. And we got Wind Waker. Wind Waker, I feel, is probably one of the most fun Zelda games, purely in gameplay, and even the way it looks because of Link's like reactions, these, you know,
just where how his like eyes follow like,
everything,
things, you know, just things going around. If someone walks by, you see his eyes
just like track him. It's great, but people are like, oh, it's not good because of the way it looks. It's like that always used to irk me. And of course, the Twilight Princess has like your reaction to the Waker. It's like, oh, now look how great it looks. It's like, it looks great, but the gameplay is a little. I don't know. But yeah, I honestly, for me, this whole graphics versus gameplay, for me, I always lean towards gameplay than graphics, and I always use the age-old Tetris. Basic as heck game to look at. Okay, but like almost zero graphics. It's just blocks. One of the most fun games you can play, and it will always hold up no matter what. It's Tetris. It's just Tetris. So for me, I was like gameplay always overrides how games look. At least that's how it should be.
Yeah, and I think this is somewhere where like Nintendo is like a very odd advantage. Is that where they've got like history on their side in terms of the video game space, whereas they did start in this very primitive time for video games, where you know their games didn't like. I mean, for the time, sure, they were doing what they could, for, you know, in terms of graphics, but in terms of what we're doing today, that you know. They're very, very primitive. If you look at, you know, if you compare things like the original Donkey Kong to Mario Odyssey, for example, there's a difference there.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. A little. Like, you had to more focus on gameplay. And I guess on the background, you had to focus on how you're going to program this thing with such a limited thing to work with. But I feel because Nintendo's had all these years of focusing on gameplay and making a game to fit it, I think they've been able to evolve well in terms of the balance between graphics and gameplay. Where I feel there's a lot of more, well, obviously there's a lot of newer people, newer players in Nintendo in this scene, but some newer companies I feel more lean towards the graphic side of the scaled and even gameplay, which seems odd, but I feel that, you know, there are people which are like, let's make this nice detailed world. I mean, let's get like this physics engine working, you know, best we can all across all these systems, and they're not as concerned on the gameplay side of things. It's more of an afterthought.
That doesn't just go for like console holders. I mean, look at Square. I mean, their Final Fantasy series. When 7 came out, they focused way more on how it looks than how it played. Easy, like because all the trailers like, look how these FMV, you know, cutscenes, just like, yeah, but it doesn't play as good as what 6 did. You know.
Well, that's an interesting result. I mean, I would agree with you, but I think there's a debate there in terms of the gameplay. But definitely in terms of the marketing, they definitely like. I don't think they even showed gameplay in the original trailer.
Nope, not a single bit.
Just cuts of the cutscenes.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, another little thing. Like I was talking about playing Doom on the Switch earlier. Obviously, that got me very nostalgic for the original Doom, to which happens ever so, you know, there's a certain frequency in my life where I need to play the original Doom.
You're talking about the original Doom on PC or the Super Nintendo?
PC for me, I guess, but
yeah, that's a superior. I mean, well, in terms of ports, yeah, the base,
different ports.
The reason I say is like when you look at the Super Nintendo version of like Doom, of course, that was powered by the whole FX, like the Super FX chip. The only thing I can say is like it didn't look good. I mean, it didn't look good. Music was great. It played like Doom, but
magnificent.
Oh yeah, but then again, you look at something like say the 32X version, which its music's terrible, and the fact is on 32X, but it looks actually kind of decent.
Yeah, I'm glad the subject of Doom porting did come up. Because I was thinking, like, obviously I've got it available on PC, but I wanted a nice way to play it on my TV. I think there's got to be a fairly modern version of port of Doom. Surely it used to be the benchmark of if this thing is even has a supportable ecosystem is Doom on it.
Yeah.
And I found there was a 360 release of Doom and Doom 2, which is backwards compatible on the Xbox
That's
One.
on the that was on Xbox Live Arcade, I believe.
Yes, and that is a good port, like as you would expect for a 360. But yeah, so I played a bit of that recently. But that kind of, I think, backs up my point at least, where it is. It's a weird one, really, because at the time.
So I have a question for that. Then.
All right.
Like, did you have more fun with new Doom or old Doom?
Where did I have more fun? Like recently, probably new Doom.
Oh, okay.
But I think the fact that it was a bit of a pause to the answer is just a testament to how good original Doom is and how well I think it has aged. I think it's probably the best aging first-person shooter out there.
Yeah, no, but yeah, definitely.
If you account for like how old the game is and how well it plays today.
I'm sure somebody screamed, what about GoldenEye? Look, folks, GoldenEye didn't age too well.
But yeah, like Doom, the original is a fast game. I know it's good jumping back. It's not as fast as New Doom. So kind of, I think like New Doom, it evokes what you felt playing the original. It's this is incredibly fast. And it's still, I still think it's faster than most first-person shooters today.
Yeah.
But New Doom is even more, well, it's even faster, which is cool.
Yeah, New Doom. Mm-hmm.
Like I feel maybe they had it at the same speed as original, and then they go, let's push this further. To really get that original feeling across, I think we need to go further. But yeah, it's always an interesting balance, like because you always, in a perfect world, you want the best gameplay paired with the best graphics, and it's obviously that's not necessarily the choice you get. And in terms of people who are in quote graphic snobs, I think kind of still all the power to you, because I get it. I do get like building a powerful PC and getting games to look as good as they can. I do get that. It's not what I do currently, but yeah, I totally do get that. So I don't think it's a bad thing to really appreciate graphics and like have that as one of your big priorities.
Yep.
But for me, I've definitely kind of relaxed on the lazy gamer side, where it's like I just want like a nice version of Doom on a console, even though I already have it on the PC or whatever, just so I can sit back with the controller and just quickly load it up from a menu and like be done with it when I'm done with it.
Gaming, that's what we like.
I guess probably I'll throw my hat into the ring of this one again, even though I briefly mentioned is that I'm an advocate for very good visual presentation, but also the fact of giving a good gameplay aesthetic and mechanic around there. And Nintendo is very brilliant about doing, taking a gameplay mechanic and building everything around that. I mean, we've seen stories and developer diaries of like how, for instance, like a game will take its mechanic around there and then say an IP is attached to it. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons I believe the failed, like remember the Capcom 5 and one of the actually no, not the Capcom 5, but one of the rumored Kid Icarus game was actually rumored to be part of done by Factor 5. Yes, but I think Nintendo rejected it at that point because I think they just presented just Kid Icarus. They say we want to do Kid Icarus, and as opposed to like, hey, here's this mechanic that we have around to do with this, and maybe we could adjust this to Kid Icarus. I think that's what I believe. I read somewhere about that. Like Julian Eckberg mentioned something about that. I think I had to look it up, but that just shows what how Nintendo's intense ideas for development is to like, hey, we need something as far as a fun mechanic to actually build out, and then everything will just kind of build out from there.
It's gameplay first, then we build the game from there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
But I guess to end though, my little spiel on here is that it does go back to the whole indie market and the fact that like how you can look. If you have a aesthetically pleasing art style to me, you're going to grab my attention there. Just as long as you actually have something to back up, with your gameplay. I mean, there'd be some issue. I mean, sometimes I like to troll my friend how like I enjoy a game like The Last of Us, but if you kind of just strip the story, if you just strip the story and narrative away, it's nothing too special. I mean, well, nothing too. I mean, its story is amazing, but to me, I always like to play devil's advocate with something like that. And this is me coming from somebody who kind of wishes there was just a little more story into Mario for a little bit. Nothing epic, but enough to kind of that you would see in like in a Pixar film almost. I feel like something that would just branch it out. But as I'm saying, I prefer the gameplay to be something settled well in, because I feel like gameplay is best for aging. And I don't know. That's why I feel like with certain Nintendo games out there is because why do people sometimes go back to play them? Most time is because they feel timeless, and they do age pretty well. I mean, but then again, granted, if you look, let's say like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, I would say play the 3DS versions. Those are the far superior versions when you come to it.
I'm glad you mentioned those, because when I went through the 3DS version, which is Ocarina of Time, I was like, this is just how I remember the game being. But of course, you go back playing the N64 version, it's like, oh. It's like, this is not how I remember this game looking. It's like in your mind's eye, the game looks a lot nicer than what it actually was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just to wrap up my thoughts, as I said before, to me, a game has to be fun for me to. It's not a game has to be pretty. A game has to be fun as well. So I always lean towards gameplay over graphics. Again, it's each to their own kind of thing. It's if you love graphics more, as Lewis said, more power to you. It's you enjoy that. That's fine. For myself, I say it has to be a fun game fundamentally first.
Yeah, and no, I don't doubt you. No, and I do not doubt anything like that. But this doesn't mean I'm wanting my games to look visually pleasing. Like I want. I mean, I'll be granted whatever. I feel like a game like I like the art style of Breath of the Wild, but there's places I feel like it could just look a little bit better. But that doesn't detract me from the overall experience. I mean, much like things that do slightly bother me in there, it doesn't take me out of the whole game. It's like something that I feel like it's able to make me feel like, wow, this is an amazing experience for something of a series that I love. And I mean, yeah, that there have been times I've been burned by visuals, for instance. I actually, aside from the Star Fox license, I bought Star Fox Adventures based on the fact that like Rare makes really good looking games. But to me, I was ultimately disappointed in it. So I
would say Fox does look incredible in that game, though.
Oh yeah, the little furry the fur textures really bring out everything in his personality.
Right. For GameCube, it looked amazing.
Yes, the personality and that British accent, that guy's accent, he's trying to hide. I know Rare did it in house, but that's whatever. I don't know. That's my take on it.
Cool. Well, I think a good question, which kind of could be a good conclusion to this, and also just a good revealer. Is on our graphical preferences. So if a game was to give you the option of a higher resolution or a higher frame rate, what would we pick?
I'd choose frame rate.
Yeah. Yeah, frame rate.
Frame rate. Probably frame rate for me as well. Obviously, it's not very fair because I asked a question. Obviously, it gets slightly dependent on what time of game it is, but it mostly will be frame rate.
Yeah, but I will say there are times. I think it, even though I will choose frame rate and everything else, I think it does depend on the game. I mean, I can enjoy a game where I can enjoy a game that's at 30 frames per second as long as the frame rate does not dip at any point.
Yeah, as long as it's consistent, and then like a nicer image quality can be preferable at that point. Mm-hmm. If it's not like an incredibly fast game, sometimes that would be the best thing. Yeah. It seems more and more games are given that option, so I thought it'd be a good question to ask to kind of put a wrap on this. And going against my own words, kind of my final thoughts is I'm not sure who from Nintendo made at least a similar statement, because I don't have it from word to word, but I do remember hearing something on the development of a Nintendo game. It might have even been around Splatoon development. Not sure it's talking about Splatoon directly, but they were saying the development process at Nintendo was that the game should be fun, even if you change all the characters to basic blocks and remove any sort of like creative, like world building elements. Like you have the same structural levels and the same characters, but they're all replaced with essentially blocks. The game should still be fun to play.
Tetris.
That's kind of the answer.
We now know how Tetris can actually evolve. Thank you, Colin. Tetris is going to new directions.
But although, to be fair, cheeky answer as it may be, it does also prove a genuine point. Like Tetris is this timeless classic, and it does abide by that rule. Like, admittedly, because it is that rule. But yeah, that's kind of the living proof. But yeah, like a Mario game, like where you are just a block, would still be fun to bounce the block around and jump and such. Not saying it would be as good, but it would still be fun. Like to do like a long jump or to do like a wall jump sort of thing, even if it's just a block against a very plain wall. Wasn't
Splatoon originally when it was when it was originally developed, they were wanting to have this game centered around Mario characters, but of course that changed mid-development, early development.
Yeah, it went through different phases. I think at one point there were rabbits as well.
Yeah, it was Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I think they did bounce the idea of having it being like some sort of Sunshine-esque or just having Mario characters in it. But yeah, it is always a good topic of discussion. I'm sure it's one which will rear its head at some point in the future. But yeah, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. There'll always be the great debate. Graphics and gameplay.
Well, I mean, now depending on bits, though, that debate has been long dead. If you want to argue about bits,
for like 20 years, it's been dead.
Maybe someone could bring it back. I'm not sure what what bit you would be touting today. Maybe someone will tell us what that is and why that's important. Maybe the Atari funded box will tout its bit prowess.
The very tiny bit processors.
But yeah, that's going to do it for the super topic. So thank you once again, Daniel Gaskin. You have sent us many questions, and we are very appreciative of each one of them. If you would like to send in your own question or topic or theme or general, or get very creative, just think of something you would like us to generally do on the show. Head over to patreon.com/Nintendo Voice, support us at any amount, and chuck us in a comment of what you would like your super topic to be, and you generally would really help this show, so thank you very much in advance. But that is going to wrap up today's show. Before we go, though, we shall do the usual thing. We'll go around and let you know how you can get hold of us if you so choose, and anything else we've been up to. And Harrison, would you like to go first?
Sure. You can reach me at Twitter at HMilfeld, and if you want to become Switch friends, you can find my friend code pinned to the top of my profile.
And yourself, Colin?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Highly Unbarred. You can also find me on Mixer, where I stream daily.
Your new home, I see, as a sense that
my new home. Well, YouTube didn't want me anymore, so I moved on.
Did you? I mean, speaking of YouTube, you all heard about well, you know how YouTube's monetization is kind of going to a point where it's just essentially it's people with smaller channels are being almost
they're raising the bar, as it were.
Yeah, and the Nintendo Creators Program had to comply, which of course is a service that we have many bad things to say about, whatever, in terms like that, but they had to abide by that. But again, it was kind of inevitable that would happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the new YouTube regime is just kind of odd. Apparently, there are even some channels that are being deleted. I'm not going to mention any names. But
an update then? On yours in particular?
My deleted YouTube channel? No. No news on the appeal I sent in, nothing.
So how do we find your Mixer?
It's mixer.com/highlyabard.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah. I have a URL, it's great.
Yeah, definitely. For myself, I do have a custom URL, but you don't want to go there. I've not updated it. It still says Twisted Fusion coming soon. Probably should have updated that. If you want to get hold of me, best place is Twitter, which is @Luvsion, Leuvsion. And I've not been doing anything in particular on my side. So for my plug, I'll do something for the podcast. Please check out the YouTube channel if you're into YouTube things. Simple as that. YouTube.com/Nintendo Voice. All the Nintendo Voice video things are there.
You get to see my reaction to Detective Pikachu.
Yes, live in the flesh. Like it, like and subscribe.
Yeah, and you can see my wide selection of game and anime posters. Some of them are
and you
some
can
of them
take
are commissioned originals.
Yeah, whereas Colin and Lewis here actually have posters. Me, I just have a picture frame of my last name and caps of my various sports teams that I like. So I don't know. It's a very odd way I can actually do this. So it's
they do appear in high definition.
They do.
They do. Higher definition.
I'm living in my low definition world over here. It's not the camera. It is just a room, unfortunately, and myself. But that is going to be episode 128. So thanks for everyone for listening and for watching. And this has been Nintendo Voice.
Take care, everybody.
See you later.
Where's the button?